Welcome to Beauty Business Matters. I'm your host, Susan Routledge, and today I am with Ben Barnett. And anyone who's been in the industry for a long time and been to the trade shows will probably have met Ben at some point along the way, because Ben I've known for, we were just saying, I think it's about 25 years, to be honest. And Ben has very much been, I would say, the face of Hydrotherm massage. And way back when, he used to come up and do clinics for us as well. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you for having me, Sin. It's great. First of all, it's just great to catch up and see you. And but it's also great to have a platform to talk about something that I'm passionate about. Yeah.
So obviously, I think obviously we're going to have so much to talk about. For anyone who doesn't know what Hydrotherm is, should we start there and then we can go back into like sort of how you ended up getting into the industry and things like that? But I think for a lot of people listening, a Hydrotherm, they'll be like thinking, what is that?
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So the name Hydrotherm comes from two parts. Hydro as in water, and then therm as in warmth.
Yeah.
So Hydrotherm literally is a support which is full of warm water, and it sits on top of a normal massage therapy table or physiotherapy table. And in essence, it turns it into a waterbed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when I talk about how Hydrotherm works, often you see people nodding, but you kind of know they're not really understanding what it is that I'm saying. So I'd quite like to describe it sometimes by saying what people normally do when they have a massage and then saying how Hydrotherm changes it.
Yeah.
So with a normal massage, most people are used to lying face down, having one side massaged and then turning over. And with Hydrotherm, you don't have to do that. That's the first thing. You lie on your back the whole time, and the therapist has hands-on access to the whole of the body. So from a massage point of view, often when I tell people I'm a massage therapist, they go, "Oh, you do massage like that?" Because that's what most therapists do.
Top
right?
down, yeah.
Exactly. And then they flip you over to do the same thing. So I'm introducing a new way of gesturing massage, which is this. Okay.
Which is like,
so you can work on both sides. And the idea with Hydrotherm is it gives the therapist really easy access without the client having to help to get to the underneath of the body and the whole of the back of the body. So a lot of beauty therapists, facialists are used to working underneath the décolleté and the neck and shoulders, or trying to force their way under towels, or getting clients to sit up a little bit.
Yeah.
And with Hydrotherm, you don't need to do that. The hands can effortlessly slide underneath. And then by changing the shape of the hand, the therapist can generate pressure on particular muscles where they need it. The client never has to be in an uncomfortable position, which also means that you don't need a face hole or face cradle.
Yeah.
That means you don't need to balance the bust. You don't have to put towels and cushions underneath the bust for female clients. It means that clients who are having a facial or back massage don't have to decide whether they're going to start face down or face up.
Yeah.
And you don't ruin the work that you've done on a facial by putting someone's face in a hole afterwards. But there's a lot of clients who find it uncomfortable or even prohibitive for them to lie on their front, elderly, pregnancy, clients who've had surgery. And for the time that I've been using Hydrotherm, I've been able to keep those clients comfortable, give them access to massage when sometimes they wouldn't be able to have that. But that wasn't why Hydrotherm was developed, actually. It's quite interesting. The reason why Hydrotherm was developed was because the therapist who designed it had problems with one of his hands and his wrists.
Yeah, which is...
And a lot of therapists do. His problem was actually because of a motorbike accident, but then it was made worse because he was doing deep tissue massage and trying to generate a lot of pressure. And what Hydrotherm allows you to do is when you work in the standard position, to work downwards and then use the extensors of the hands. And then when you work underneath, to work pulling and to use your flexors, which means you're halving the amount of pressure you put on your hands as a practitioner.
Yeah.
But still getting to have deep pressure on both sides of the body. So, the client benefits, you benefit as a therapist. And so it's a win-win situation. And I'm here 31 years later with no thumb problems, with no wrist problems to kind of demonstrate that it works.
So 31 years, obviously, since you first started with Hydrotherm, is that when you first got into massage and therapy and things. Was that from, what did you do before that?
Good question. Right, so my background was I did a degree in engineering and business studies, which had nothing to do with my therapy initially, but now does have quite a lot to do with what I do work-wise. And then I went and played professional football. I was playing semi-professional football just before I qualified and afterwards, but I had a year playing professionally for none other than Barnet Football Club, which is a bit bizarre because that's my name, right? Yeah. Exactly. Ben Barnet playing for Barnet. It's a source of much amusement with my friends. But I had a bit of a back problem myself, nothing that took me out of playing, but it made me really interested in massage. I went and got some really good massage therapy and I got really interested in it. And then I wanted to find something to do with my time when I wasn't training that was constructive. And I was going to do personal training. And then I found massage. I thought, actually, I got really interested in that and trained in conventional Swedish massage. And I went to an exhibition just as I was waiting for my iTech certificate to come through. Yeah. And I met John Holman, who was the guy who came up with the idea of Hydrotherm. And it just ticked so many boxes for me. Yeah. And, it seemed to make massage simpler and easier. And actually, when I first came across it, I was like, well, is this a new idea or has somebody done it before? John invited me to become part of the design team for the training for Hydrotherm. And I was like, well, I hope we're not ripping somebody's idea off, because it seemed like, someone must have come up with this before. Yeah. And, so for about the first month of me being involved with the company, I was like waiting for the phone call for someone to say,
you've copied it all right.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it never came. No. So, and actually some people have copied it since, which for me is a sign of a good idea. So, but.
So you were in right from the start then?
Yeah.
Amazing. And the thing is that, it is a big issue, isn't it? For especially in spas and things where someone is doing massage day in, day out, that the pressure on the hands, it eventually does end up taking its toll, doesn't it? Kind of thing.
The majority of massage in the UK, I believe, is still done in this kind of spa and beauty therapy sector. We've trained sports therapists, holistic therapists, physios, chiropractors to use Hydrotherm. But the majority of people who use it are in that aspect of the industry where they're not necessarily physically robust and ready to give a deep massage, but they may be having to do hours of massage related treatments. Yeah. And I've had colleagues, friends in the industry who've had to stop working and go into teaching because they started to get problems with their wrists and their hands, but also with their lower backs, because the position you have to be in to generate pressure, you have to lean over, use your body weight to provide the pressure, also takes its toll. And what we tried to do with Hydrotherm was to design a way of massaging where you didn't have to use your thumbs as much. Yeah. Because when the hands are underneath, you can change the shape of the hand and use different structures. But while you're doing that, you've got the client's weight on your hands. So you're not having to put as much of your upper body strength into it. You're not having to lean over the bed as much. In fact, I often, when I used to teach therapists one-to-one, I would say to them, if you want to see if you're doing a technique properly, sit down and do it. You should still be able to get the same pressure, because it's the client's body weight on the back of the body, that is, when you're working, with the client lying face up. And actually one of the issues we used to have was that therapists would find it too easy. Yeah,
and they try to
because they were used to feeling the depth of the massage by the effort of their own body. Yeah. So they try and lift people up. And until they had the massage themselves, they weren't really aware of how deep it could feel just by lifting your fingers or using your knuckles like that. So there's some untraining that needs to happen sometimes with therapists, especially if they've done conventional massage for a long time.
I can remember as well in the very early days, because that's how we met, obviously. So I think obviously it's 25 years since we introduced Hydrotherm into my clinic. But those early days as well, it's developed way past then since, because obviously the they used to cool down, didn't they, as well? Where now you've got like heat pads with them, where it makes all the difference.
It really does actually make a difference. It's Hydrotherm is one of those things which you can put on your massage table, set it to work at a particular temperature, and basically leave it on the bed the whole time with lots of equipment. If you have to bring it to the massage table and then take it off again, that can be more complicated. But actually, Hydrotherm can add value to almost every kind of spa or beauty kind of treatment. And because the material it's made of, it's not affected by aromatherapy oils. And lots of other things would be stained or damaged by oils. You can have it on the bed when you're doing other treatments. And, so it enhances facials. It adds an element to back massage. It's obviously designed for full body massage. But then in specializations as well, it comes into its own that you can add other massage-based treatments to your menu, in a spa.
But it's lovely as well because in essence, you've got two cushions, haven't you? And one is the back. The one is the size of someone's back, but then the leg one, obviously, you put a boulder underneath, which then separates the water into two lovely cushions, one for behind the calves and one behind the upper leg as well. So it's it's just very, very, very relaxing, even just to lie there.
Exactly. While you're having, if you're having an aesthetic experience, to have clients lay on it. And we do have a lot of accounts that use it as a warmth provider directly to the client. Obviously, the difference between that and electric blanket is an electric blanket warms the side of the body that's in contact with it, not the other side. And unless it wraps all the way around, which again means it reduces the ease of access to your client's body. But what Hydrotherm does is it gives you heat on the main area that you're massaging. So shoulders, lower back, the glutes, the hamstrings, and the calves. So you're warming those areas up before you massage them, as you're massaging them, and then keeping them warm afterwards. And it means that you only need to have a towel or a blanket over the front of the body from a modesty point of view. And you don't have to have the room as warm, which again, it can affect therapists. They can get dehydrated, they can get tired because you're keeping an environment warm enough for a client who's undressed. And, as a therapist, you're working away, generating a lot of heat. So I've found that that's been, again, almost like a secondary advantage that therapists have found with the system.
Because as well, I've always for sort of foot massage and things, it puts feet in a lovely position, and you've already got that warmth, and it's lovely.
One of the things I find with that more spa experience for clients where they might be having a package is if you wanted to have somebody, as I said, have a facial, a back massage, or a full body massage, and then have a foot ritual in place, you've got some issues in terms of if you have a client on a bed for a long period of time, they can get achy because they're on a flat surface and they're not flat. So a lot of people get lower back ache, or they get pressure points in certain parts of the body. Equally, to treat the whole body from a massage point of view, as I said, people are normally used to turning someone over, and then you're compromising the work you're doing on the face at some point, either before or after.
You end up with that whole face, don't you?
When I first trained in massage, actually I used to swap treatments with somebody, and their face hole on their massage table was exactly the right shape to press on my eyeballs. So I would not only have the ring around my face, but I'd actually be slightly short-sighted for about 45 minutes after the treatment. My back felt great, but my eyes didn't. So, so the idea for a lot of people of eliminating needing a face hole or face cradle is quite liberating. And what I found with Hydrotherm is a lot of these issues clients don't really talk about until there's an alternative. It's almost like, why would they bother to complain about a face hole? And they're coming in for tension in their back, and their back feels better. But once you can give them an alternative where they don't have to lay face down, then actually you'll find lots of people say, oh, I get sinusy when I lie face down, or I leave half my makeup on the bed, or it affects aesthetic that I've had done. And that's when you start to realize that, there's a lot of small issues to do with keeping a client comfortable that can add up to a less than exceptional experience for the client.
But even just for breathing, it's far easier breathing when you're
both in terms of pressure on the chest and on the face. And we haven't even talked about for female clients, lying on the bust for long periods of time, can be mildly uncomfortable for some, and it can be the difference between people coming in and having a treatment at all for others. It's an area that I'm always trying to find the politically correct way to talk about it as a male therapist. Is to talk to female clients about, you don't have to lay on your front and be uncomfortable to have effective full body massage or back massage.
Yeah, I know. I was asking my members and things because when we had a big conversation about, didn't it? Because you wanted to do some research on whether it was a problem that everyone was finding, and and everyone's like, oh well, if it's a big busted client, we just roll a towel up for underneath their bust and things, but it's not always the solution that's comfortable, and then you're putting pressure on when someone, like on someone's back and forcing them onto like a hard surface, obviously a massage couch so it's so many benefits, isn't it, kind of thing. How many therapists have you trained over the years? And
personally, I believe myself is about 2,500 therapists, because I've trained all over the UK. I've trained in South Africa. I've trained in the States, and we worked with Aveda as a partner for a while. And as I said, I've trained in lots of different sectors, lots in the spa and beauty industry. And I used to do a lot of the larger, 5-star hotels, the health hydros who introduced the system. But then lots of individual practitioners, sole traders who are, working from home as well. So, and even some mobile therapists as well who wanted to take the system into their clients' homes, control the temperature that the client was experiencing and not have to have a big bulky padded massage table to have a client be comfortable.
Yeah. So it's mainly the UK market, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is predominantly. What's often happened with us at exhibitions, we've had somebody come over from another country as a distributor, small distributors of different products, and they've seen the system and they've taken it back to, so I've worked with distributors from Holland, from South Africa. In fact, the South African one was British, and she had repatriated to South Africa. And then we would go over there and support them at exhibitions. And what was lovely about that, though, was to work in very different cultures and sometimes work with therapists who didn't really speak very much English, but to see the same response from the therapists and from their clients. That's when that you're doing something that's really exciting and is not just, for a particular range of people or a particular country, if you will.
And the thing is, obviously it's got so many benefits, hasn't it? Because for disabilities and things like that, obviously you're taking away all of that pressure. And I know we spoke when we were talking the other day about cancer patients as well. The fact that it's taken away any kind of pressure on the body totally kind of thing, which is
one of the things that happened with Hydrotherm is, in the very early days, we almost didn't realize what we'd invented. And then little by little, particular sectors of, well-being and health kind of, came to us and go, oh, this would be really great for this. And then we would collaborate with them and maybe design something. So that happened with the use of Hydrotherm during pregnancy massage, where we don't side lie the client. We have a client at a 30-degree angle, which again is more comfortable for the client, but still lets the therapist be able to do an actual full body massage to the whole back to get to the back of the legs and the
when you
glutes.
say 30 degrees, what do you mean?
So if you imagine your standard massage table would have a back section that can incline.
Yes.
So we would, as the client gets onto the massage table, we would lift the table up as they lay back, so they're never laying completely flat.
Right.
So post 6 months, I think, is the normal advice from midwives and from the obstetrics industry. Yeah. You wouldn't want to have a client laying completely flat. Some pregnant women are comfortable that way, but the advice is to avoid the baby coming up into the diaphragm and pressing on the descending aorta. So having them inclined means the gravity naturally has the baby come down into the lower abdomen. You can still massage that area and you can still get to the lower back and the shoulders. And a lot of my pregnant clients have said, and I've got some YouTube videos of people who are very heavily pregnant talking about their treatment afterwards and just saying how the only place they really felt comfortable, they couldn't really get comfortable in their own bed even, was lying on the water, being warm, being supported. And in places where I've worked with Hydrotherm and they have, specifically marketed the pregnancy aspect of things, 15 to 20% of my clients on a regular basis would be mums-to-be.
So and that's where it's been really popular for us. Yeah, is in with pregnancy massage.
Yeah, but obviously once someone's had the baby, then they're nursing, and they don't want to lay face down.
Yeah.
And actually, once they've got used to the benefits of Hydrotherm, although we didn't design it as to be better, that's the feedback that we got from a lot of clients. Once you've eliminated those issues of turning over face holes and what have you, clients don't really want to go back to that. So you kind of capture a client when they have a specialization like pregnancy massage, and then you keep them. So.
Yeah. I can also remember in the early days as well, one of the issues that we had, because if you put too much water in, then it can get like a little bit like a rocky boat kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's which is obviously what you teach, how to have it sort of filled just to the right amount.
We've all done it. I've done it where I've rushed in, I've had 5 minutes to set up, I put too much water on it, in it. And then what you actually want ideally is the client to lay in almost like a U shape of water.
Yeah.
So they've got a little bit of cushioning on the side, and then as they would move naturally, that cushioning would have them feel more stable.
It's like cocoon in them a little bit, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes.
But you've always got enough underneath so that the therapist doesn't have to lift them up. And occasionally we'd find that a therapist, instead of someone being trained by someone who's trained to teach, they might be shown how to use it by another therapist, and they wouldn't necessarily adjust the nuances of that, like how much water to put in or, how to position someone correctly. But, equally, if you haven't got enough time to set up, you don't do it properly, that can happen. And it's not funny at the time, but afterwards, there's lots of stories of, I've never had anybody fall off the bed, but you can see people kind of listing to one side a bit like a boat. So, but when you get it right, it's amazing.
And how many establishments would you say in the UK?
That's a very good question. And it's difficult for us to keep track of it because the amount therapists move through organisations, once a spa or a salon doesn't have a qualified therapist, effectively they can't offer Hydrotherm. So I know there have been hundreds, like even just the ones that I've worked with. And as I said, from health hydros, right the way, through to 5-star hotels in London, some of the top day spas, and right the way through to individual therapists, working from home. So I talk more about the cross section of different kinds of therapists rather than the numbers.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we've only really scratched the surface.
I was going to say it's a little bit like the best kept secret still, isn't it?
It is a little bit, and there's something I'm very passionate about changing, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the show.
Yeah.
I use Hydrotherm in a very specific way because my specializations have gone more into the holistic understanding of massage and mindset and how emotions show up in the body. But I also have worked with professional sports people. From my football background, I've worked with professional footballers. I went into Tottenham Hotspurs and worked with their team, their sports science team. I've seen the benefits that professional athletes get from having massage on the system. But I've also worked, for example, with the Royal Surrey Hospital in Guildford in their oncology ward, training volunteers to be able to teach massage for clients with cancer. And that was before we designed our own course, which trains therapists in how to safely and effectively adapt their massage to be able to work with cancer patients. Because as you say, most cancers affect the front of the body. So once people have had surgery or they've had adaptations, like if they've got a colostomy bag or what, an ileostomy bag, then lying someone face down really isn't an option.
No.
But being able to give therapeutic touch is what we would say. So not affecting the cancer, but not having the treatment be affected by the client's surgery is the key thing for us. We've developed protocols in that regard as well, and worked, I've worked with quite a lot of clients who wouldn't have been able to have massage otherwise.
For someone to train in Hydrotherm, what qualifications do they have to have?
So in the early days, we would train students who are training in massage in college. And then their massage qualification would activate their Hydrotherm qualification.
Yes.
Now it's a little bit more controlled in that we would normally need to see some evidence that someone is trained in a massage modality.
Yeah.
Now that might be a physiotherapist. It might be a beauty therapist. But once they've got that qualification, then they can do their Hydrotherm training. And the main Hydrotherm training courses now are actually available online. Right. So that, and that was a decision, it was a difficult decision, but it was a decision made by Hydrotherm to make it easier for therapists in more remote areas to be able to use the system.
Yeah.
I like any kind of massage treatment, I would always say to a therapist, make sure that you experience it yourself so that you know what it's supposed to feel like. So I always encourage therapists to do that if someone's doing their training online, to make sure that they get an opportunity to experience it by somebody who has also trained and has some experience.
Because obviously, I mean, you have been the main trainer, and then there's John.
There's been several regional trainers we've had, and we've also had some in-house trainers. We still have some organizations who, if they have a big team, will train them in how to teach the standardized massage.
Yeah.
And then their in-house trainers can actually train new staff as they come along. So there's always an option to do things like that. But as you say, there was a very tight core of us who used to kind of whiz around the country and train lots of people. And then obviously I had to have a lot of massage myself to assess people.
Of course.
So you have to lie there and make sure that it's, the massage is being done properly. So I think my record is I've had 5 therapists massage me at the same time before. It was a bit of an experiment to see if I could actually tell whether people were doing things right or not. This was actually over in America when we were working with Veda. But it's, again, for me, it's the best way to make sure. One of the key things we're making sure is that therapists are not making it harder for themselves.
Yeah, it's just a natural thing, though. Because I can remember when I trained all those years ago, it is just, you just think it's got to be harder than it is.
Yeah, and in basic terms, when you put your hands underneath someone, the assumption is that you're going to have to lift them up to massage them. But actually we use leverage. So just leveraging the fingers is where the pressure comes from. And that takes a little while for the mind to kind of go, well, that seems like a very simple movement, but actually it's quite a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of the advantages of swapping treatments with somebody who's also practicing.
So where can you see, I mean, it's been around for so long now, and it's always just been one of those things where, as I say, we bought it earlier and then we've bought sort of like a new system and things. But obviously, you guys were always at most of the trade shows. And, you've always had that presence. But I think moving forward, it's going to move into a new direction and move upwards.
Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, I actually think that having a product that has 30 years plus, experience and feedback and I used to say I did conventional massage alongside Hydrotherm, and people would make their own choice. But now my major preference is Hydrotherm. I will reluctantly do a normal massage, and I'm still pretty good at it. But if I have half a chance to talk somebody into trying it, then I do, and they don't really look back after that normally. In fact, I've had a number of people who have gone to spas that have had Hydrotherm, and then they've come back to their normal place where they would have their monthly massage and said, well, I'm not having any more massage until you get this system in, which, I always find is that's the power of somebody actually experiencing it. Do you know what I mean? So one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast was just to raise awareness for a lot of people of the fact that it exists, and really encourage people to find their nearest place that does it and try it, like, as a therapist, and really check out whether you can do an effective massage without turning somebody over, whether or not you can feel the relaxation effect of the warmth, and whether or not you feel more comfortable with some of the things that we've talked about being eliminated. Then you can make an educated decision about it. What we haven't talked about at this point is the financial implications, because we recommend that therapists charge between 15 and 20% more per hour for a hydrotherm massage than they would do for a conventional massage. So you're actually able to, to place it as a premium experience for the client, and equally being able to design treatments where clients can have a facial and a back massage as a continuous experience, which again links your facial clients to body treatments and links your body clients into facial experience. So, lots of therapists I'm sure have had the experience of wanting to retail, product range or whatever, talk to a client about their skin, but they've got a face in a hole. And they're looking at the floor. So
I must admit, I never thought about that.
Yeah. And in fact, there's an interesting story. John, the director of Hydrotherm, the founder of Hydrotherm, had an inquiry from a spa. I think it's, I'm going to get the name wrong, so I'm not actually going to try. There was a spa in the Maldives, which is one of the only underwater spas. Okay. You might know the name of it, actually. And the interesting thing was that they were doing all this massage, and literally they were in this perspex dome underwater with all this marine life all around them. But clients are looking at the floor because they've got their face in a hole while they're having a massage. So they introduced Hydrotherm so that their clients could lie on their back and actually experience the amazing view of it.
Amazing experience.
You can imagine, right? But equally, we've had places in Bali that, again, will do massage under the stars where it's warm enough for people to do things like that. But, sometimes venues are spending a lot of money on the aesthetics of their rooms, but their clients are looking at best at the therapist's manicured toes. So, you might get an upgrade to a manicure. But they're looking down at the floor. And so you're missing that retail opportunity, and you're missing that transference of body treatments, body clients into facial clients and vice versa. So I talk to a lot of therapists about the financial and the retail opportunities that Hydrotherm represents, which can, make a big difference.
Yeah, but as well, I mean, the thing is that I know we've used it before for doing spa, pedicures, and it's great for reflexology, all of those kinds of treatments where it just puts the body automatically into a relaxed state.
It really does. It really does. And that's making your therapist's job easier. It's speeding up the process of relaxing for the client. But as I said, if you can have the client warm without having to heat the whole room, that's also going to reduce your heating bill, which can be a big implication for businesses.
So the training for Hydrotherm, I know you said it's online now, but is that a long training or?
No, the structure of it, because we're already training people who've got their massage skills, who've got their tactile skills.
So all of the anatomy, the physiology, all of that's already covered. So they would have that. Yes.
We did sometimes enhance that a little bit with some of our courses. We'll talk a little bit more about the anatomy and physiology, because you're looking at the three-dimensionality of it. You're looking at muscles on the front of the body and how they balance the ones on the back. It's quite useful for therapists to understand that, because sometimes you're trying to get a result in relaxing a part of the body, but it can't relax because there's a opposing muscle on the other side that's causing the tension. So in therapists understanding that, they can tailor what they're doing. But from a training point of view, the key aspects of training is the effective and safe setup of the system, how to adjust it for different kinds of clients, and then how to translate a kind of standardized Swedish massage into a Hydrotherm massage. Or to then translate what someone may have already learnt, say, in their Hydrotherm standard training, into a massage that will be suitable for someone who's pregnant, or into a treatment for a client with a life-limiting illness or post-surgery. So, in some of the courses we would teach how to adjust your technique if someone's had lymph nodes affected by surgery, and where to drain into differently. So those details would be within a course. But equally, positioning for pregnant clients and working with lymphatic drainage rather than with a standard massage, kind of working down towards the ankle if clients are starting to get restriction in lymphatic drainage. Later in pregnancy, we teach therapists slight adjustments to certain techniques like effleurage, which would work with lymph more than the standard kind of working up and down the leg. So, but we also have a lot of companies, sometimes the actual spa or organization themselves, like, who are buying the system in, will want to bespoke something and design a experience for a client around Hydrotherm, but include a product range. And then sometimes we will have specific areas, like, for example, we've worked with clients with MS or cerebral palsy and worked to design ways of positioning people to have them be more comfortable. So I was lucky enough to work for about a year with the husband of a client of mine who was actually at the Wellington Hospital and had a brain bleed. And so he was about 50% paralyzed. And he wouldn't have been able to have a standard massage very easily, and we would have to hoist him on and off his own bed. But I designed a protocol where he could have a massage on his airbed. We'd have to hoist him to put the Hydrotherms on the bed first of all, but then I designed it so that we could take them out from underneath him without having to move him again. So once he was relaxed and comfortable, he could stay relaxed and comfortable. And it was just it was a very fulfilling experience for me to work with him, and really help with his rehabilitation and offer something that the physiotherapist couldn't really offer, which I know really made a difference to his mood and his mindset as well.
Absolutely awesome. So the thing is, there isn't a way that there isn't like a clinic finder or anything on the website at the moment, is there?
Not easily, no, sadly. A lot of, or most of our accounts, if they have Hydrotherm, will have it on the price list. But, just having Hydrotherm on there is very easily overlooked. Nobody knows what it is, Exactly, it's very easily overlooked. But I always say to people, do Google, put the name in, but also ask, if you're looking for a massage, ask if the therapist or the organization knows about what I now call face-up massage, because there are a couple of other organizations who've kind of, let's say politely borrowed from the idea. And the whole idea of being able to do a massage with someone stays face up the whole time, I think is something that is slowly gaining momentum. But it's something that, I've always thought that one day it will just catch fire and everyone will know about it.
Because the thing is as well, I mean, to be honest, it'd be fantastic for social media.
Yes.
Because, it automatically would stop someone in the scroll because they'd be like thinking, what's that? Because it's not something that, that you would normally get to see how it's performed and things, isn't it? Kind of thing.
And even just watching it. So I've got some clips of me working with clients at exhibitions, and sometimes clients will be happy enough for me to video aspects of their session, watching how the body moves on water. In comparison to it being on a massage table, you can just see how much more fluid and relaxed and supported the body is. And that automatically lets you know that, that initial tension that clients can have where they're lying on the bed, they're a bit apprehensive, is eliminated really quickly. And even from the point of view, if you're lying face down, you can't see what the therapist is doing in terms of preparing. A lot of therapists are taught to keep their hands on the client the whole time. And that's just to stop clients getting anxious from that point of view. But if the client can have eye contact if they want it. They don't normally lay there the whole time with their eyes open, and you can put a beanbag over their eyes when it's appropriate. But just that way round of the client knowing they can see what's happening actually does a lot psychologically to relax people. Equally, for people who are maybe a bit self-conscious of their body, to be able to keep a towel on the front of the body and still do a back massage can make a big difference for people psychologically. And for some people, that can be the difference between them coming in or not. So
over the years, have the massage movements, have they changed at all?
They've evolved a little bit. There's been, there's always ways to take massage techniques and kind of evolve them to work with gravity, to work with the body movement, to work with 3 dimensions. And so in our courses, some techniques have come in and they've gone out. And equally, we always say we're not trying to lock therapists into a regimented, rigid way of doing massage. The idea is that it adjusts with the client. So if clients have got particular areas of tension, they're stronger in certain areas because of a sport or an activity they do, then you can tailor what you're doing. And for example, John, the designer of Hydrotherm, quite often will work with them in the standard Hydrotherm position with a client, and then he'll turn them over because he wants to work very specifically in certain areas. So for example, if someone's got sciatica and lower back issues, he might want to work with reinforced with the elbow or deeper movements in that area. So you can use it that way to kind of prep a client and then to soothe them afterwards. That's really just showing the versatility of the system. But from a technique point of view, we want to teach therapists like a skeleton, standard way of being able to treat each major area of the body, and then invite their creativity. Invite their flair. And there's lots of movements that I do that I've invented as I've been using the system for so long.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? The more you get your confidence as well, the more that you can, and you then can tailor it for every client. But I mean, I'm always teaching people to become incomparable in their business. And I think when you've got something like that, that does make you incomparable.
It really does. If someone's in a town or a city where there might be another spa or organization that's using a similar product range, introducing Hydrotherm to your facials or to your full body massage can be the difference between someone going to your competitor or being loyal to you. Because, as I said, the way to be able to link seamlessly treatments together, even the effect of when you use aromatherapy oils with Hydrotherm, it's almost like there's more aroma in the air because of the warmth, and the client to a degree is absorbing more of the product. So they get a more empowered experience of that product range. I have seen organizations take Hydrotherm on because they want to set themselves apart from, another company that's taken the system on to kind of match their competitors.
I mean, the thing is that, I think calling it Hydrotherm face-up massage, I think is brilliant, because I must admit, we've just normally called it Hydrotherm massage. And when you do think about it, clients won't know what it is unless they see images of it, see videos of it. And, so I think it's a whole new kind of, you could make a whole new re-emergence of it in your business.
I think so.
As well.
Yeah. And I think, I've always had really good success with when I used to go into spas and salons and train a team in it. I'd always want to do a presentation to talk about what the benefits were, have somebody on the bed. And then the other thing with Hydrotherm is you can do really effective clothed massage. The client needs to be wearing the correct clothing. But when we used to do demonstrations at exhibitions, for example,
it was always with people clothed.
Most of the therapists would be clothed. They wouldn't be prepared to have a massage when they came to the show, and they'd walk away having bought the system just based on how effective it felt through their clothes. So that's actually
I never thought about that. So I mean, that in essence, really, what you could do is do as a I'm just thinking as a clinic owner, you could really just have it set up somewhere where clients just let them experience it for 5 minutes kind of thing.
Yep. So you can do that with, if you're doing a facial, you can have it on the massage table, and while the product's activating on the face, you can do it, rather than doing hand massage, which a lot of therapists do. You could actually just do a little bit of back massage or a little bit around the shoulders. We haven't talked about the technical advantages of Hydrotherm. So when you want to get underneath someone's shoulder blade, lying them on their back and bringing their arm across their body is a much more effective way of getting to the muscles around the shoulder than putting the arm behind the back, which is what a lot of us are taught. It just makes the experience less challenging for a client if they haven't got flexibility in the shoulder. But that whole client experiencing it almost like they weren't expecting to experience it, and they come in and they lay on this thing, and then suddenly they're like, oh my God, I can actually completely understand that I could have a massage in this position. And normally you'll find that clients will, vote with their feet in that regard. So, that's been a very successful way. And sometimes I would always say to therapists, as I said, look to price it at a higher price point. Yeah. But when you introduce it, perhaps you can say to people when they come for their first treatment, well, you can have it at a standard price. And then, after the launch time, it will go to this price. That's quite a nice way almost to be able to gauge how much more you can charge for it.
Yeah. But I think the introduction thing's a great idea, because then you could have someone just having just 4 or 5 minutes lie on it and to feel, even just doing some like upper body movements where you're moving the shoulders and different things, just so that you could experience that. You can't really do that with standard massage. You can't really just like, oh, here, lie here, put your head in that hole, and like, oh, how does that feel?
Do you know what? Exactly.
Right.
There is this whole experience of the postural muscles relaxing and you sinking into the water, which that only really makes sense to somebody if have you ever been in a flotation tank or been in the Dead Sea? Yeah. You have that point where your muscles start to switch off. So you have that with Hydrotherm, which again means it's helping the therapist. But it means if you just lay a client on there and leave them on there for 10 minutes or so, they actually do get a relaxation effect. And the other reasons that's a useful way of doing it is because sometimes when you say to somebody, oh, I'm going to lay you on a waterbed, they'll go, oh, I'm going to feel seasick. And so they won't try it. But because the head's not on the water, with the setup of Hydrotherm, we have these little head cushions, exactly, with memory foam. So they mold into the shape of the back of the head. So the head doesn't move as much as the body does. So you don't get, it's very rare to get that experience of feeling nauseous lying on there. And I probably had 1 or 2 pregnant clients in the whole of my 30 years who felt a bit that way. And maybe 1 client who had a balance, like an inner ear balance problem. But because, as I said, because the head's not moving as much, you don't get that same kind of experience. So here's a good point to put in. It's not like a 1980s waterbed. I'm not going to ask you if you've ever been on a 1980s waterbed, Susan. I will personally admit to having been on one, where you move and then 10 minutes later the bed's still moving. Effect. Exactly. You do get a slight movement with a Hydrotherm, but pretty much as soon as the therapist stops moving you, then you stop moving. Yeah. And we actually teach some rocking movements, which are really effective in being able to pinpoint where areas of tension are. So, for example, at the most extreme end of the scale, if people are hypermobile and have got a lot of movement in their body, you can see that immediately when you rock them, and you can watch, like, the hips or the lumbar back move in a different way, which again informs the therapist of how to adjust their treatment. Yeah, absolutely perfect. So what's now? What would you say? I mean, obviously we'll put the details and everything into because obviously we have a lot of people listening to the podcast who aren't from the industry as well. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of phone calls going around. That'd be fantastic. We'd love that. To see, because the thing is that if someone can't find anywhere that does Hydrotherm, ring in the office. Would you know places in the area and things? Often the office does help that way. I mean, it's not designed to do that. Yeah. But,
I think just ring around your area first.
Yeah,
and
indeed,
exactly. I would say if you've got a hydrotherm and you're not using it at the moment, I'd start to look out from the social media aspect, and then as well direct your clients to even listen to this podcast.
The nice thing about algorithms nowadays is that the more people that start to post about something like that and hashtag it, then the more there's a momentum that builds, and then people start to get posts coming to them about the system. So I think it's now time for individual therapists who might have felt a little bit isolated by using Hydrotherm, but kind of felt like people didn't know what it was, to tap into that and then start to link in and even make comments, when Hydrotherm have posts out, and I often will put posts out on demonstrating aspects of its use. But equally, to go hand in hand with this kind of reemergence of Hydrotherm, I have actually put John's arm behind his back, and in order to get a deal for the subscribers, the listeners to the podcast. So we've got a deal which we'll give you the information about, which basically allows people at the entry point of introducing Hydrotherm to their business to get a substantial discount, both on the system and also on the training if bought together.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing. Right, so we'll put that in as well.
Great.
But I think, it'd be fascinating to anyone who's already in the industry who hasn't come across Hydrotherm, anyone who is listening who's not from the industry, but also, I think, I know of salons and clinics where, it gets put to one side sometimes as well. So, and it's because you're busy with other things. I think it's like, right, how can we utilize it and bring it back?
Exactly.
There's just so many benefits.
But I would say from a client's point of view, if you know that your normal massage experience isn't quite as comfortable as you'd like it to be, don't be British about it, because the British, the British are like, they'll kind of go, they'll go in and they'll say everything's fine. But then the next time it comes to booking something, you can tell by the book, how they book and put it off, that they're not really getting the full experience that they want. So I'd say to people, go in and ask for it. If it occurs to you that it would be beneficial for you as a client to not have to lie face down, to not have to turn over halfway through, to not put your face in a hole, then ask your local therapist if they've heard about it. And sometimes they will have heard about it. And other times I've literally had people call us up and say, we need to buy one of these things because we've had 3 clients in the last week who've been asking about it, and we're going to start losing clients to other people if we don't have it. At that point, they didn't have any idea what they were buying, but they just knew that it was something to bring into their business, right? But for a lot of clients, I think it's time now to not to, when I say put pressure on their local therapist, but you know what I mean? Is to be comfortable with driving something forward. And I know this happens with other products where somebody decides, I don't want that kind of hair removal, I want this one, and then people get it in.
And we do that. We take new things in from the demand of people asking.
Exactly. And equally for therapists, if they're starting to get problems with their hands and their wrists, it's like you don't have to put up with it. You don't have to just tolerate it. It's like start to look at alternatives. And there are some alternatives out there in terms of no hands massage and in terms of using tools to do certain massage. But that doesn't cover the warming the client, keeping them in one comfortable position. And Hydrotherm then has a number of additional bolt-on benefits that are worth exploring, I think, for any therapist.
But those benefits, that warmth as well, is transferring to someone's hands as well.
Exactly.
And keeping those, supple and in great condition. Because the thing is, your hands are everything in
they really
industry.
Are. And, you for a lot of people, they've spent time and money investing in their training, and then to have the thing that you're trained to do be the reason why you can't do it anymore, for me, just seems, the bottom line is it's not sustainable from a business point of view. But it just seems, for me, it's not, to call it the wellness industry, if you're making the people who work in it less well,
Yes.
in order to help clients doesn't really sit well for me.
Yeah.
And I, one of the reasons I do things like this is that I have some skills and I have some experience that can help other therapists. And I wanted to give back from that point of view.
Yeah.
Even if people are not, buying the system themselves, to be able to tell someone who comes in who can't get comfortable in a standard massage, there is an alternative you might want to look out for.
Exactly.
But then once you've turned away 2 or 3 people, it's probably a good time to actually, add to your repertoire, right?
Amazing. I'm going to we'll have everything in the show notes as well. But this has been amazing, Ben. I knew it would be. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thanks, Susan. It's been lovely to see you again.